Hello book nerds, welcome to Bookshelf Bunny. I'm Kim and today we'll be doing our February wrap-up. Okay guys, first of all, before we jump into it, I just need to show off my new fabulous shirt. Look at my lovely logo. It's so beautiful, it's so perfect. It's my colors, it's vibrant and colorful. I'm just in love. I'm gonna post a link in the description below. This is where I acquired this work of art. Definitely check them out. Okay guys, let's talk about books. This month I managed to read 8 books, so I'm still on par with my goal of 100 by the end of the year. I also did bookish bingo and almost finished. By the time the month actually ends, I'll have finished. Right now, I'm 1 book shy. So this is my bookish bingo. So for bookish bingo, for that first box in there, a 3-word title, I read If It Bleeds by Stephen King. And guys, that was a great anthology. It includes 4 novellas, and one of them is actually the title story, If It Bleeds, and it's a sequel, spin-off to The Outsider, also by Stephen King, which I haven't actually read, but after reading If It Bleeds, I need to read The Outsider, guys. The next box there is to read a book under 120 pages. For that category, I read Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. And this book also doubled as my Book Riot Read Harder Reading Log challenge of the month, which was to read a guilty pleasure. So my guilty pleasures I kind of talked about in my TBR video for this month is a trope more so than any particular genre. And that trope is enemies to lovers. So I picked up Desperate Measures in the hope that it would encompass that category as well. And it did, to a degree, not quite as much as I would have liked. I also found that while super steamy, guys, so steamy, the sex scenes in this story, there were too many of them. And there's sort of a fine line for me between what is needed to get the story across properly and what's overkill. And this was definitely leaning towards overkill. But all in all, it was an interesting story. I really enjoyed how Jasmine developed as a character throughout this book. And honestly, I can't give you any spoilers, but the ending, mic drop. The next box there after the free space was a mythology story. For that, I chose The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Now, I'm not actually finished it yet. By the time the month actually comes to its end, I'll have finished it. So I'm including it in this video because I know I'll get it done. But as of the time of this filming, I'm not there just yet. As far as the mythology category I'm trying to reach, well, this story doesn't really, at least not yet, really focus on any particular specific mythology. It sort of pulls from a lot of common threads that you can find in mythologies in general. And I think that ultimately what it's doing is sort of creating its own mythology. So that's kind of neat to see that develop. And to get my last category and complete my bookish bingo was #OwnVoices. And for this category, I chose Grown by Tiffany Jackson. It fits the category because it's by a Black woman about a Black woman. But the story is so much more than race. This story also focuses on abuse and how easy it can be for a woman to find herself pulled into an abusive relationship. And as far as the Black community goes, how difficult it can be for a Black woman to find that help and that support. It's almost as if a Black woman needs several witnesses to corroborate her story before anyone will believe her. It's a fantastic book. I highly, highly recommend Grown. And that took care of my bookish bingo. But that's not all I did this month. I also just sort of read books that I felt pulled towards, and one of those I finished the Inheritance trilogy. I read the third book called Kingdom of Gods, and this is by N.K. Jemisin. So this story, this third installation in the trilogy, focuses on Sia, one of the godlings, one of the offspring of sort of the three main dudes. And Sia sort of embodies childhood. That's his godhead, I guess. And he suddenly finds himself turning mortal. And so this is the story of Sia trying to understand why this is happening while simultaneously being faced with adult concepts, which actually end up hastening his aging process. At the same time, he's trying to figure out this vengeance plot that has potentially dire consequences. This is a fantastic story, guys. It really tied up the trilogy well. I also read Wow, No Thank You by Samantha Irby. And this is a series of essays, and she tackles things like anxiety, health issues, career choices, and just adulting and life in general. And she takes it in a total no-nonsense, hilarious way. She is fantastic. It was a great lighthearted read, and you should pick it up. It's so good. I really resonated with her on the anxiety side of things because I have a lot of anxiety about ridiculous stuff. And the way that she just took that and ran with it, it helped me make light of a thing that I struggle with personally. Definitely check it out. I also read Introvert Power by Lori A. Helgro. And Lori is a registered psychologist, I believe. She herself is an introvert, and she writes from a professional's opinion on what it means to be introverted and how someone can find their strength in their introversion, that it's a valid, more common than we would think, personality type all around us. And as an introvert, I found this book to be really encouraging. And lastly, I read Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline, the sequel to Ready Player 1. And I found that this book wasn't quite as good as the first one, but it was still really entertaining. They take you down a similar series of fandoms that the first one does. This one includes a whole segment about Prince and a whole segment about Lord of the Rings, in particular the stories in the Silmarillion, which I actually haven't read. I really need to read the Silmarillion. My husband has, and it's only because of him that I was able to understand half of what was going on in that particular part of the book. So, gonna have to get on it and read the Silmarillion. It was a great story, although I do have to say, they do this whole Prince battle thing, and my friends and I played a D&D-esque game of our own making, and where we fought and encountered random pop culture things throughout, and we actually fought Prince too. We had to do a death battle with Prince, so I found it interesting that this took a similar idea. That was fun. How did you guys make out this month? What books did you read and what were your favorites? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. All right, book nerds, that's it for me. And as always, happy reading.